This session goes on from now until 12:15, and it's a workshop to look at transfer pricing and withholding taxes. And if I can just introduce the two people who will be giving this workshop to you. They are Billy Jobert, is a director in charge of Deloitte's transfer pricing team with many years of transfer pricing experience. I like these very short bios, they're fantastic. And Carla van der Merwe, is an associate director at Deloitte's transfer pricing team and has been with the team for 8 years. So without further ado, let me hand over to both of them to start the workshop.
Morning, everybody. I hope I'm not patronizing you by giving you a sort of overview of what transfer pricing is. I'm sure most of you attending an international tax session would be aware of what transfer pricing is. But I think it is helpful just to reflect on a couple of trends and try and place transfer pricing in a context. And it exists in South Africa and elsewhere in the world in a very specific context. And I'll try and give you a flavor of what's happening in transfer pricing in our daily work, our interactions both with SARS and with other revenue authorities. And hopefully then that will be useful to you. What's up there? Sorry, I think I might have skipped a slide. There we go. So that's transfer pricing is, I've depicted it there as a tug of war, and it's a tug of war that happens at multiple levels. Anyone who's got involved in a long-standing TP dispute with SARS will probably relate to that analogy, that it does feel like a tug of war with SARS trying to get their share of the taxable profits and the taxpayer trying to justify what they've done or not done. But it's also a tug of war between authorities cross-border. And I think this is something which is becoming increasingly, or there's a higher level of awareness of it across the African continent. So we're seeing more and more activity. I mean, the first step obviously is to pass transfer pricing rules, and many African countries have done that. But there's generally quite a big time lag between passing the rules and actually enforcing them, because revenue authorities need to build up the necessary skills, and it takes a while. I think if one just reflects back to South Africa's development in that area, we passed the legislation in 1995. We got our practice note in 1999, so it took 4 years. I mean, Section 31 is quite short, doesn't tell you an awful lot. If you want to look at the detail, you have to dive into the SARS Practice Note 7, which is now a little bit long in the tooth, having been passed in 1999, but it's actually still pretty good. We expecting a new, or we have been expecting a new transfer pricing interpretation note from SARS for quite some time. I'd love to know exactly where that is. But essentially it'll say the same things as SARS Practice Note 7. So I think because of this tug-of-war dynamic, revenue authorities are realizing they can't afford not to pull at the other end of the rope. Having the rope means that you've got the TP rules, but you've actually got to pull. Otherwise people aren't scared of the revenue authorities in country. So essentially that's the dynamic, and it has we are lagging the rest of the world, the rest of the developed world as Africa, but we're catching up quite fast. And so I think that's very important. I'm sure there are plenty of people here who are either practitioners or work at multinationals with African operations, and I think it is important to be aware that this is a big trend in Africa. One of the biggest problems actually is that you sometimes deal with an attitude of you trying to strip profits, and we have transfer pricing rules, but where people don't yet have the ability to enforce the rules, it's often quite arbitrary. It's difficult to have technical debates with them. And the quality of the technical debates which we are able to have with colleagues and with authorities around Africa varies quite a lot, depending on the level of advancement of that particular jurisdiction. So that's something that we're still grappling with on a daily basis. One of the advantages about, and this is all the kind of verbiage that there is around transfer pricing, but one of the advantages about transfer pricing is that there is this useful thing called the OECD guidelines, which is the single most widely accepted